Welcome back to the Pleasure Monkey Podcast, everybody. On this episode, we are going to be talking a lot about addiction. And if you know my story, you know that I grew up around addicts and have been around some addictive behavior and things like that for a lot of my life. And I actually give that time and that experience a lot of credit for helping me develop compassion and empathy and connection and the introspection that I really love having in my life today. And when I met Bryan, who is the show's guest today, he really has done the same, but through his own life experience and through his own addiction. Bryan owns a marketing company now, but really is passionate about helping people that have a positive message share their story. And the guy comes in and just shares his story, is super authentic, super transparent, and gives a really great perspective on how we can view the struggles and view the breakdowns as an opportunity to grow. And we all know how that mindset can really change our approach to every situation, good or bad, and really have us making the most out of every single fucking day. Guys, I think you're going to love this episode with Bryan. And if you do, head over to iTunes, give us a 5-star review and some kind words. I'll always appreciate those. They make my day, and they make you feel good too. So it's a win-win. Check us out on iTunes, guys. 5 stars. And here's the show with Bryan Edmund. But before we jump into the show, I've got some news, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a new show partner, and that is Hate Brand Goods. Now, the name's a little aggressive, I'll give you that, but the mission and the mentality are right in alignment with Pleasure Monkey Nation. So you may think, why Hate Brand Goods? What does that name even mean? Well, it's really built around hating mediocrity and hating complacency and really taking the extra steps, doing the extra work to get what you want out of life. One of my favorite quotes from the founder, Matt Vincent, is that he wants to wring the marrow out of every day that life gives him. And if that is not in alignment with what we're about, I don't know what is, guys. If you go to The Hate, and that's HVII, just like Roman numerals and stuff, it's very cultured. So thehate.com, and then use code word monkey at checkout. You're going to get 15% off of all your apparel, duffel bags, coffee cups, coffee, all kinds of cool shit. It's going to be great. Go check it out and get decked out in Hate Brand. My shipment gets here today, and I'm pretty stoked. I got the new joggers. Whew, they're fresh. They are so fresh. Check it out, guys. TheHateHVII.com. Wait, TheHVII.com. Let's be clear. And use code word monkey at checkout. 15% off, and you support this beautiful podcast. And as always, we're brought to you by our homies over at Onnit.com, your home for all things optimization. Guys, it's fall. It's officially fall. And you know what fall means? Pumpkin stuff. There's pumpkin stuff everywhere. It is almost Halloween. And I want to talk about one product from Onnit that will really take your fall to the next level. That's the pumpkin emulsified MCT. You can put it in cold drinks, hot drinks, shakes. You could probably make some kind of candy with it if you really wanted to. You can check out @LiveLangdon on Instagram for all the dope recipes. BT Dub, shout out. And guys, the stuff's great. It tastes fucking great. And you're going to be delivered with sustainable energy from coconut-derived MCTs, not from palm. Palm harvesting is ruining the planet. Don't get palm-based MCT. Not going to go on a rant there, but Google it. Derived from coconut, the highest quality MCT you're going to find anywhere, and it tastes like pumpkin. What? It doesn't make any sense. But you can go over to onnit.com/monkey and get 10% off of said pumpkin MCT. Do it. You won't regret it. And enjoy yourself. You make a smoothie, make a coffee, tag me in it. I want to see your basic bitch photos on Instagram. Make it happen. Onnit.com/monkey. 10% off any and all supplements. Now, guys, enjoy the show with my homie, Bryan Edmund. So, Bryan, when I met you, man, we started just immediately going off, talking about where we came from, how we got there. One thing that's so badass about being in an influencer summit or any kind of community that's based around growth is that people come vulnerable, ready to share their stories. And whenever I heard yours, I just wanted to get you on the show.
Yeah.
So I just want to give you some free reign and just let's start from the beginning and then talk about how you got to where you are.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you for having me on the show.
Of course, man.
Such a cool weekend over at On It. Learned so many cool things. Like you said, in Q, was that his name? Q, the poet.
Yeah.
That was a really powerful experience. Bringing us all together and like learning and wanting to grow. But I've never done poetry before.
I don't think any of us had.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So when he challenged us to, sit down with our thoughts and write a poem on, an experience that changed your life, that impacted you very much, and, it just brought up a lot of emotion for me because I took it serious,
Absolutely, yeah.
So I started writing out this poem. It started rhyming, I didn't know it was going to start rhyming. And, for me, I come from the addiction recovery world. In 2012, I got caught up, and it was kind of at the end of my rope. And during that poem, it brought me back to that specific day. And it was sometimes you have these moments in life when you look back at it and you understand that was a pivotal moment in the direction in which you're going, right? And when I was in 2012, when I was like 23, I believe, I was really caught up doing a lot of drugs, drinking, gambling, and I ended up in a bathtub in a full-blown panic attack, having thoughts that I didn't always have, and like really really scared, and I didn't know how to ask for help, and. Yeah. Luckily for me, my parents and my brothers have been trying to get me help for a while, and that moment in time, I had lost a lot of money in gambling that just was not around, and looking back, it was a big cry for help, and I finally surrendered, and I asked for the help. I accepted the help that was being given to me, and ever since then, I've kind of been on my, as they would call it in the marketing world, that hero's journey, right?
Yeah, right.
Kind of trying to clean up the past a little bit and just be the best version of myself, And that poem was really powerful for me because, whenever I go back to that day, I get really choked up and really emotional. And, getting creative in my recovery process, because I have my own podcast called the Sobriety Network, which, we interview people who have been through really hard things, and I got really, when I got into the world of recovery, I got really into personal development, and like really big fan of like the entrepreneurial mindset and like all these people out there that are trying to create positive change within the world. And I just latched onto it because I was like, man, that person's not in recovery, but they have the mindset that I'm looking for, that I want to start to develop for myself. And so I've kind of just been on that journey, every day trying to grow and get better, and just try not to take from the world as much as I used to, and try to give more than I used to.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something that's really really special about people who come through some kind of struggle, and that at some point may have closed you off, or you may have been selfish in that form of expression, and it was really about you. And then having this profound, even though it may be terrifying, which is usually, one thing I like to say a lot is that one of the scariest things you'll ever see is yourself. If you truly look at yourself for all the good, the bad, the bullshit, the nonsense, and then try to find compassion for yourself, then you've got something there. You've got a tool that you can take to the world. And I mean, shit, dude, like ending up in a bathtub, panic attack, not really knowing where you're going to go, and just steeped in fear, and then being able to wrap that up, bring it together, and then, I mean, I have to imagine that's giving you some strength going forward.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting for me looking back on it is, before, like, I kind of saw the world from one perspective. Yeah. And that, like, there was a lot, like, and I feel like suffering is a natural human part of life, right? And at some point when our consciousness level starts to rise, when we're maybe 10, 11, 12, 13, 40, whatever point that is for you, when you start to be aware of like your surroundings and like what's going on in the world, and you start questioning things, When I started questioning things, I was listening to rap music and I was hanging out with the wrong crowd, and like it starts to kind of influence you without you knowing that you're being influenced. And that's why I'm super passionate about marketing and advertising nowadays, and the power of influence, and like how people, who you surround yourself with really matters. And that's why like coming to events like how we got connected at an influencer mastermind event, and surrounding yourself with, people who are trying to, cultivate a world of non-suffering, and I think for a long time I was really caught up thinking that, it's okay to be living like this because my friends are living like this, or the people that I'm surrounded with are living like this. It seemed very normal to be drinking and doing drugs, and like this is just, and fighting, and like this is just what you do. And of course you rationalize it by saying, oh, I'm not as bad as this person, or like they're way worse than me, and so on. But I didn't see until I got into recovery, until my darkest moment, until I ended up in that bathtub, I thought my world was over, and it was actually just beginning, And so that was like a really, really cool thing to look back on now. But like the worst day of my life ended up becoming the best, because, if it wasn't for losing all of this money and like getting caught up and like ending up in that bathtub and like really in a place of desperation, like hopeless desperation, I never would have accepted the help that, my family and other people were trying to help me to get. So I'm kind of super grateful for the pain, because it has built a lot of strength.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. And I was on the other end. My relationship with addiction was as the child of addicts. And I saw it's funny that you said that about the poetry thing. So just to give a little context, like InQ is he's a lyrical genius. He's a lyrical genius. He was a hip hop artist, and now he does slam poetry, which you may think is like, that's kind of goofy, but this guy was one of the most engaging presenters I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was beautiful. Like we had guys like Lewis Howes and JP Sears there, also just completely in awe of this human being. And I wrote, in my poem was about my grandmother who had recently passed away. And I talked about how she took me in when everything was a crazy mess and told me that everything was going to be okay and that I was home. And I never realized, because I was so scared. Like I was scared, and I blamed myself because I was the oldest son of my mom, and there was three of us, three boys. My grandparents took us in. My mom, just was completely lost. And my grandmother saved the day and did the best she fucking could, like the best she could. My grandparents came through it, and what I realized is that she gave me, like I always said, that I gave her credit for giving me my heart. She taught me what love was and how to love. And it came down to the end for her. She was diagnosed with ALS about 2 years ago. She made it about 14 months. And I didn't realize until he brought this out of me that I sat next to her bed whenever I'd go home, and I went home a lot more often, and just telling her it was going to be okay. And I didn't really put all of it together till I started writing that. She taught me how to be that person, how to show up and be resilient and be loving. It was crazy. It was wild. And I was sitting here. I mean, I'm sitting at a table with two UFC fighters that are champions, and we're all crying.
The manliest of men, the slayers of earth.
They were both female. They were both girls, but they could definitely kick me in the face if they wanted. and we're writing poetry. And it was a really beautiful experience, and to see how that all wrapped up, and understand how much gratitude I have for those times in my life that things would just seem completely lost, and I didn't know what to do but blame myself. And I was 5.
Yeah.
I was 5, and then it came back to this, having this relationship with an addict that you just want to get better. You just want them to get better, and they come back in your life and tell you everything's going to be okay, and then disappear in a week, and you don't see them for 3 months, and you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's wild, man. It's wild. But looking back at it now, like even the relationship I have with my mom now is great. But we had to get through that kind of her understanding that I didn't resent her as much as she resented herself. Like I found gratitude, and because of that experience, I get to share this message with people.
Yeah.
I get to sit here and have a podcast and share because of the strength and the context that gave me on life. In the same way that I get to also see what real, true connection and love was from my grandparents. I got to see both, and now I get to go out into the world and share and be. And there's something beautiful in that, and it's hard because you want to call it bad or good experience, but it's just fucking life, man.
Yeah.
And we're all a product of our experiences, trying to express ourselves and be connected. And when you're surrounded by an environment that may be kind of toxic. It's everyone. We'll get addicted to what we can connect to, and if that's drugs, alcohol, partying, and justification and fear, that's what's going to be coursing through your veins.
Yeah, man. It's definitely not easy. Like looking back on it, like it's definitely not easy loving someone that's caught up in the grips or the mist of addiction. Someone that's like, and at the same time, like looking at it. I've never really, I was on the other end of it. So like, I can't imagine what my mom has been through, or like what her perspective is now. I try to put myself in her shoes and my brother's shoes and like understand. Cause like, even though I'm over 3 years sober, I started in 2012 and it took me a couple of relapses to really start to get it. And, for them, they're super grateful. They're just happy that I'm sober and I'm doing my thing. And like, I'm Mr. Positivity now, and like I've had this kind of this shift in my mindset, which is, for me even like it's shocking in a sense. So I do something that I believe in a lot, and just to give hope to any family member out there, because a lot of family members will reach out to me like how do I help my son? How do I get him off heroin? What do you recommend? And there's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and it's like just never stop loving them, and that's hard. It's really hard to love someone that's caught up in that, and don't judge the behavior, because a lot of people get I was stealing. My mom's epileptic, and she hasn't had an episode in years, but she always has an anti-anxiety medication just prescribed to her, just in case she ever felt something coming on. Yeah. And I was so out of whack, like I would steal her medicine, the thing that like could possibly potentially stop her from like having an epileptic episode. Wow. I would steal those for myself, and that behavior, looking back, like I didn't have much control over that. My brain wasn't like, it was poisoned. And, I've had to like find myself, be able to like forgive myself for that. And like those experiences as someone who's in active addictions, you start to hate yourself. So like you start to be like, how could I do that? And like you don't want to be present in the real world with the identity that you've started to amass for yourself, right? And I think just as a family member or as a friend or as a loved one, like sometimes you have to remove yourself from the situation and like kind of let them go do their own thing and pray and have faith and hope that they're gonna they're gonna get it, or they're gonna get to the point. Like I wish every single alcoholic, addict, anyone that's struggling, someone that's cutting themselves, because it's not just about the substance, right? Like there's people out there suffering and they're cutting themselves, they're harming themselves, they're doing things to get out of themselves. And I would just, I would encourage anybody that's currently in the midst of that to ask for help, because the best thing that I got to the point of so much pain. Like I want people to get to the point of so much pain that they're willing to ask for help. Yeah. That their ego isn't like holding them back, especially as a young man. Like asking for help is like a weakness, or we look at it like, oh, like I'm supposed to be this tough dude, and I can't ask for help. And getting vulnerable and being able to like really admit my flaws, my weaknesses, and getting to that jumping off point. Really opened up the doors for me and like gave me a second, third, fourth, fifth. I don't even know how many chances, but those, I feel like God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in, whatever that higher source is for you, is always trying to redirect you and give you the opportunity to go down a different path, and trying to wake you up in a sense. And like for me, I had to wake up in a bathtub, $25,000 in gambling debt, like with my mom looking over me, just super like, what the fuck is wrong with my son? Like what's going on with my son? And so. If you do have a loved one that's caught up in the midst of addiction, just do your best to continue to love them. But if you have to, love them from afar and just pray and try to always point them in the direction of getting the help that they need. Especially a lot of people need professional help. So, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think kind of as a child of addiction, essentially, it's like It's funny. I used to give my mom, like, there was a time in my life, probably from 18 to like even my early 20s, where I was just so hard on her. Like I would any time that I got a chance to like just like if she ever thought I was wrong about anything, like I would just beat her down with like the past, which is just so fucked up. Like I didn't know any better. Like I didn't know how to handle my own pain because this is someone who made me feel like I was broken for a lot of my life, you know? And it's hard to be on the affected end of addiction when you had nothing to do with it and not blame yourself. You know, that's really an interesting thing. It's like, well, maybe my mom just wouldn't have even had me, then she would have been okay. Like maybe the reason, you know, maybe I stressed her out to the point where she broke. It was strange. And then on the other end, like people who loved me the most, that were trying to help, like I saw them be affected by it and feel like it was their fault. And it was just this cycle of just believing that there was something you could have done differently, and then almost like obsessing about that. And I think one big thing to take away from that experience for me was it's hard. It's going to be very hard to understand that it's not your fault. Yeah. You know, it's not your fault. And you're a perfect example of this, as am I. Yeah. Like you have no idea what that experience is going to mean for them. Like you have no idea what that experience is going to mean for them in the long run. You know, if they're struggling, they're like beat down, and they're in their early 20s, they're addicted, they're lost. That doesn't mean that they're gone forever. And I know it's hard to see that, but compassion, understanding, and not blaming yourself is only going to give them a better chance.
Yeah, I did an episode on this for the mothers, because this poem came across. I don't remember the poem off the top of my head, but this poem came across that a woman, a mother of an addict, had written, that really touched me. And I read the poem, and then I just kind of did a one-off episode, telling family members, especially the mothers, that it's not your fault.
Yeah,
because we want to think, oh, maybe if I didn't stay with my husband, or maybe if we didn't keep alcohol in the house, or maybe like at the end of the day, from my own personal belief, I do believe addiction is in some sort of a way a disease, and I do believe that however you want to look at it, some people, their bodies process whether it's the drug or whether it's alcohol differently than other people, and a lot of times if you've been through some type of like a sexual trauma, or if you've been through some type of whatever type of trauma, however we process that in our in our psyche, people are going to be more inapt to kind of, whether you were the best mom in the world or not, like they're going to ride that wave until they either, I think, unfortunately, crash and burn. And it's a lot of people. The harsh reality is, like, a lot of people don't get up from addiction. And it's a real scary thing. But a lot of people do, and there's millions of people in recovery, and there's a lot of hope, and there's a lot of transformation. And without the pain and suffering that I've been through, I would not be the man I am today. I wouldn't be as passionate. I wouldn't be as hungry. I wouldn't be as driven. Like, there's so many blessings that do come from it. And I think people in recovery, I think addicts are the best people in the world, because they get through it. They get through it, and they're raw and they're real, and they got a lot to offer. And it's something I'm very passionate about, and like I'm on a mission to like become the best version of myself and learn, tactical skills that can help other people in recovery to not just get sober for a little bit, but like to create a life beyond recovery, and like beyond, going, because a lot of people go to rehab, or if they can get into rehab, and they'll get out and then they'll relapse, and they're just going back and forth in this circle of, not really having the transformation internally, because this is an internal game, right? So it's like laying the foundations on an internal game, and then, getting like tactical skills. Like, it matters when you're in, like, if you're trying to stay sober and you can't get a job, you can't, like, you have to be able to enter back into this world and be an active human being.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, time can be a really bad thing in early recovery if you don't have somewhere to put it, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, creating an educational system for people in long-term recovery, like right after, especially right after, within the first 30, 90, 120 first year of recovery, where you actually teach them specific skills that can help them to rebuild their life, something I'm kind of passionate about.
Well, I mean, and I would like to hear what you have to say about this. Like I believe that there's some part of this when you're coming back from recovery from anything. This can be addiction to fear or sex or gambling or drugs or alcohol. Is we kind of verbalize it as like you need to fix yourself. Like you need to be fixed. Like you're broken. And I think sometimes we need to look at it and understand, like find gratitude for that experience somehow and understand that and let yourself not be broken. Like the belief that you're broken will just perpetuate because then there's shame around that time you spent. You wasted your life. You ruined your life because society told you that drugs will ruin your life. And that's not necessarily the case. That's not necessarily the case. If we can really show people that they aren't broken, like just come to you and be like, come to someone in love and say, hey, you're a whole person, man. Like you're not half human. You don't suck. Like you're not a piece of shit. Yeah. You're as much of a human as Mother Teresa is or was, and that's huge. That's huge to just, and people can wrap their mind around like, oh, hey, like I can use this experience. This can be something that I share with people. I don't have to hide from this. Yeah. There's no shame here. Yeah. I'm me. Yeah. I can be fully me. And that's okay.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest breakthroughs I had was like learning about your own psychology, right? And like really becoming a student of it. And I think every human being at some point, especially if you've been through some pain, and if you're like 18 or older, you've been through something. You know, you've experienced life to a certain level where you're trying to figure out like why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Why do people do what they do, right? Yeah. And starting to understand psychology in just like a basic practical level should be like step one of every schooling, everything. Like why what's controlling our actions in a certain sense. And I think alluding to what you were just alluding to, understanding that the story you're telling yourself over and over, when you can bring that to a conscious level where you're saying like, oh, I'm a piece of shit, or I'm not good enough. I'm not like, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I did. And this whole story of like who you think you are is broken. Yeah. Right. Is like, I didn't believe I deserved all my mom tried to do my entire life was love me. And I would like the rage that would come inside my body was like, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know if I curse on this podcast.
Yeah, you're good.
But like,
it's explicit. Everyone knows.
Yeah, it's cool. So like, I just like, I didn't really know because I wanted to be able to accept the love from my own mom, but for whatever reason, I didn't feel like I deserved it. I felt like I was broken. I felt like there was something wrong with me, and I needed medicine. I needed a pill, or I needed something to change my biochemistry, to fix my brain chemicals, And, as I've grown older and as I've been on this path of recovery or personal development or like learning how to, grow within this world, I started to uncover through, great teachers that a lot of it relates back to the story that you're telling yourself. Yep. The story you're telling yourself is controlling your actions, is controlling who you think you are and how you're being in this world. And I think the most powerful thing for me was you actually have the ability to tell that story. When you become aware of it, you can activate there's certain strategies and tools that you can implement, whether it be meditation or activating your physical body, like writing. Like there's certain things, and it takes time, but you can redefine where you're heading in life. You can claim a new identity, right? So like I'm very big on. And I love Tom Bilyeu because he preaches this a lot.
Tom Bilyeu?
I think that's how you say it.
Bilyeu. Tom Bilyeu. Yeah. Impact Theory.
Impact Theory.
Yeah, I love that guy. He's fantastic.
He's a man. And he talks a lot about, it's not about who you are, but it's about who you're becoming, right?
Ah, yes, dude. That's so well put.
So that was really impactful for me because I was kind of already on that journey. But when he phrased it, it was just like, one of the things I think that most human beings are missing is creating a compelling vision for their future, like so that you're getting like, why am I getting up every morning? Like I'm not chasing the bottle. For 3 years, I haven't been chasing the bottle or pill or like cocaine. Like I haven't been chasing things to get out of myself or to try to like up or enhance myself. Like I've been trying to chase a vision for who I could become. Like, why am I here? Because we're not gonna be here that long. Like
that's true, man.
We're not like this. Who knows? Maybe we're coming back. I don't know,
dude. I don't know. I think when the lights go out, we'll be surprised. That's about the only thing I can say.
Yeah.
And the part about redefining your story and understanding that everyone's gonna tell themselves stories based upon their experience, and that's okay. And what Tara Brach, who is one of my favorite teachers, talks about is that's your fear refuge. You know, when you're scared, when you get in this cycle of kind of unworthiness, like you go to this fear refuge, and you have to redesign where fear takes you. Does it take you to a place of resilience? Does it take you to a place of unworthiness? You know, and that story, when it does come up, because that's one thing, I think that's why relapse happens the way it does, because life happens and that story will come up. And you have to be able to look at that and be mindful. Like, this is the practice of mindfulness. Yeah. Be mindful of that story coming up and have compassion for yourself and say, hey, like, kind of smile at it and say, oh man, like that story's coming up again, but I know that's a false belief.
Yeah.
Like, that's not who I am. And it can't, every time that happens, every time that you start with compassion and push that story away and accept the fact that it came up and bring yourself back to alignment with yourself, that's one more like tick on the staff of resilience. You know, you just get a little bit more resilient, and then with that, you're stronger every time. Every time. And you're patterning your brain to where it becomes habit to let that story come up and let it go, let it flow through you, and it's gone, you know, until the next time it comes up. And that's okay, because that's being a human.
Yeah. And then, you know, you brought up relapse, like just to go into a couple of my relapses. It was interesting. There's so many moving variables as to why someone might, you know, like consciously like put the thing back into their body that's destroying them and their family and like their loved one. They know they can't do that thing, but something brings them back to it, right? And, you know, in recovery, they call it a mental obsession. Like you're so mentally obsessed for the drug or the alcohol or the sex or whatever your thing is, or the multiple things that it could be interconnected, that, you know, it's almost as if you don't have control. So that's where they talk about an addiction is a choice, right? It's like when you're in the grips of that in your brain, especially if you're abusing substances, like you're physically harming yourself. So your capacity for willpower is scientifically proven to be way lower to be able to say no to that thing. So when we get triggered as human beings to like pick up a drink or to do this or do that, it's very hard if you don't have the willpower, which is something that's built over time through experience. And some people have stronger willpower than others, you know. And I don't necessarily think it's a matter of willpower, but when I relapsed in a few different situations, but two of the times that I did relapse, I noticed it wasn't like I wasn't depressed. I wasn't like a situation didn't happen, but the thought to pick up a drink again, I was like, you know what? I just won't do drugs. Like I just you know, it was the drugs that really messed up my brain and my body. It wasn't the alcohol. Like at my core, I do believe I have alcohol is the pinpoint, you know?
Yeah.
And it always led to more drugs and more chaos, etc. And, you know, one of the other reasons why I'm super passionate about marketing and learning about advertising and how powerful it really is in this world is like when I relapsed, I was on the beach, I was at a personal development seminar, I had this beautiful blonde girlfriend, and like everything was great. Like life couldn't have gotten better.
Yeah, man.
And my mind tricked me. A story came out about, you know, I remember seeing the Corona commercials and like the two blonde girlfriends like drinking in the bikinis on the beach, and then like what that is implying is like if you achieve this, you'll then be happy, right? Yeah. Like for whatever reason, that was one of many things going on, I'm sure, in that situation. But it, you know, I couldn't stop the thought and I couldn't stop the lie or the story that came in that this is okay. For my situation, for other people, maybe it's okay, but I knew for my situation that drinking that one drink was going to lead to more drinks, which would lead to me losing everything. Yeah. And within 3 months of that, like I lost pretty much everything again, had to start all over. But it really, that experience brought the awareness that you were talking about of like, next time, because that story has come up again ever since, but it was a learning experience for me to be aware that is not a true story that I have to buy into, right? Yeah. And it also got me super passionate about like they put billions, millions of advertising dollars into these brands, and not just like Budweiser or Corona or whatever it is. Like every single brand, Nike, like even the like good brand, like health brand, like advertising works, and it's a tool of influence, and it's something that I think. We're not aware, most people aren't aware. Like I wasn't aware of it. And like in recovery, they don't even talk about it. It just kind of gets chalked up to like you're suffering from a disease. It's no one else. Like there's so many moving variables in the world that there's a lot of things going on. But I do think it's a valid conversation to like really start to understand that people are paying a lot of money to hit you with subconscious subliminal advertising messages for a reason.
And they really don't care about you.
No.
They don't give a shit.
No. They care about selling product.
Exactly. Right? And then no fault for them, but you need to understand that's where they're coming from. They're not coming from a place of let me, I think we talked about this off air, but I feel like so much time people spend on their phones and in social media that it's almost like my responsibility to put some good shit out there that can actually be impactful. Yeah. And
I was just going to say that, like, we actually have the power, we can take some of the power back. You know, like, without the marketing, like it's David versus Goliath, right? Yeah. But like, fuck, I want to be David. Like, that's more fun. Like, that's the hero's journey. And when you get on that journey, you start to create your own brand. You start to create your own message. You start to become an influencer, right? You start, like, social media has broken a lot of barriers where you can now get your voice out into the world, and one is going to build you as a person. You're going to feel like you're contributing and that you have a purpose, right?
Yeah.
Because we all want to feel like our lives have some sort of meaning or some sort of purpose to them.
Yes.
And until, like, for me, I never thought of like, oh, what's my purpose until I was like, until I was questioning why I was here,
Yeah.
And I mean, I think your purpose is kind of always unfolding, but through action, through creativity, through putting stuff out into the world, and trying to create. For me, I don't know, like, why is that? But like, trying to, birth something into the world that's impactful, that could help someone to transform their life or to get to the next level, or try to, even just saying one thing could be the shift that someone needed to hear. And I only know that because, like, that happened for me. Like, I would listen to like Les Brown or like a Tony Robbins or a Lewis House, and like at that stage of life or that point in my life, that one episode or that one piece of content completely helped me to shift.
Yeah.
And, like, gave me hope, right?
Yeah.
And gave me a sense of like, I'm not alone, and that, we can all get to the next level.
Yeah, man, I think that's one thing that when we talk about these people that are influencing with marketing, with media, and people put it a lot out there, at the end of the day, they're giving you context on your life and your experience and helping you understand how you can be, like you say, the best version of yourself. And a lot of times it comes down to, what I encourage people to do is not just listen to the information, but listen to the ways of thinking that person shares. Like, how did they get to that conclusion? How do they get there? Like, look at the story behind the results. Sometimes we get very results driven as a culture, and it's, well, I look at this guy and he worked hard, he did, whatever. But at the end of the day, what were the thought processes behind that? What was behind the scenes of that result truly? Ask those really good questions. And a lot of the best people out there are able to share that and be transparent. And there's a lot of value there, because you all start to see then too, because sometimes when someone's so successful that you think, I can't possibly do that. I can't, it's almost like too much, but you see that it's a string of events that may have seemed kind of cumbersome. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that's where it was that semi-directed persistence, just like a river doesn't flow straight. Like, it's kind of here and there and here and there, and then it ends up in the ocean, and that's the way it goes down. And you got to understand that resilience that you can build through understanding yourself, failing a little bit here and there, falling on your face, getting up a couple times, being grateful for the times that happened, and being grateful for the times to, fall down 9 times and get up 10. That's huge. That's super huge. And we do have the capacity to share that. Like, next thing you know, you're a pleasure monkey, right? Yeah. You're just doing.
Who doesn't want to be a pleasure monkey?
I don't know. This is pretty. I think if I could just transform into a monkey once a week, I would do it. Like, Sundays are just to be a gorilla.
Yeah. Well, that when I started learning about psychology, like, step one of like basic human psychology was that the way our brains are activated to are wired is like, we want to gain pleasure and avoid pain at all costs, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, like in order to avoid pain, I found alcohol, and alcohol became my go-to in pretty much every single circumstance until it became my poison.
Yeah. And you were young, right? Like 12 or so?
Yeah, I started drinking when I was about 12. And that's just because, and that's why I think environment and who you surround yourself with and culture is so important. And I don't think I really delved into it before, but I was trying to get at the fact that, we've kind of set up a culture and a system that if you are an addict or if you do have alcoholic tendencies, like, you're basically set up to lose. Like, you're kind of screwed in that, like, we've set up a reward system, especially like I'm from New York City. I was in sales. Like I remember having an experience when I was first sober, and I'm very unanonymous about my recovery now. I speak about it, but like
Fuck
early
yeah,
on,
man.
I didn't want to tell anybody, and like rightfully so. And like I understand why people are anonymous, and they're like, and that's fine, and it's like it makes a lot of sense. But like I remember being in my sales job, but like no one at my work knew that I was sober because I was afraid. I didn't know if I was gonna stay sober. It was my first experience with it, but I would I started to get better physically, and my brain started working a little bit better, and I actually became really good at the job that I was doing, and I ended up like getting all of these booking all these demos, right? And I booked like 20 demos for the week in my sales job. Damn. And so I got recorded, but I got rewarded by the CEO, by my boss, who was just traveling in Jamaica. And when he came back, what he gave me as a reward on a Thursday afternoon in front of all my colleagues was, what do you think?
There's a bottle of liquor.
Bottle of liquor, yeah. bottle of rum, straight from Jamaica. So, I think it's. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, but it's just interesting that we live in a culture that is like we look at alcohol as a celebratory thing, and if you do have alcoholic tendencies, or if you have that addict kind of personality, like you're kind of screwed because everything revolves around alcohol nowadays.
It does. I mean, it's a catalyst for social interaction, and it's funny too because we, not to go on a tangent about just drugs in general, but we categorize all these things as substances, right? What's funny is that there's like this spectrum. Like alcohol is one of the most toxic things we can put into our bodies. If you have a healthy relationship with it, good on you. I mean, I know people that have a healthy relationship with cocaine. Yeah. Like that. I've never had a problem, and that's
kind of dabble a little bit.
Yeah,
it's like it doesn't completely ruin your life.
It's like a Monster Energy drink at 1 in the morning, or whatever. And then I've talked about that on the show before with my buddy Kyle Kingsbury, who comes from he used to bounce at strip clubs, and we talked about how that, but it's super fucking slippery. Because cocaine, I mean heroin, I think is probably the slipperiest.
Yeah, that's probably a hard one to dabble with.
Yeah, you don't really dabble. I've actually heard of people doing it. They're secondhand, but I don't know anybody who actually pulls that one off. Yeah. But like alcohol, like they're on this spectrum where they're considered recreational and fun. They give you fun. Yeah. Like, oh, this gives you fun. And then on the other end of the spectrum we have like these are also considered drugs, right? But we have like psilocybin mushrooms and LSD and fucking marijuana and ayahuasca, like these things that we can't even really speak of because that's crazy. Yeah. But people are drinking themselves to death every day. Yeah. So we have a kind of a backwards culture when it comes to these things, and we don't have the forewarnings. Like, oh, if you're 21, you can drink, it's fine, you're good. Yeah. When you're 18, you can start using, you can start smoking cigarettes and doing whatever, and that's less socially acceptable now, but our whole policy and the way we look at substances is just backwards as fuck. Yeah. And then the way we look at human behavior is also really strange. Like as a culture, like, I don't understand. It's like the people that need the most compassion get ostracized first. And maybe that's a primal thing, I mean, that's a primal thing where we want to get the people that are fucked up out of the tribe because it's whatever, but we can move past that. I think that's where we can consciously come together and say, hey, like let's meet this situation with our best selves. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like, poverty has a lot to do with addiction. Like if you're not without money at the end of the day, and this is like going back to like limiting beliefs. Like I used to have all these messed up beliefs about money, and like money doesn't grow on trees, or like money is the root of all evil, and like all of this stuff about money. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a certain amount of money, like you're going to have lower levels of happiness. And like I believe there's been some studies on this now. If you're like, and you don't need tons of money, but like you need, depending on where you're living, if you're living in New York City and you're making, $20,000 or less a year, you're gonna have lower levels of happiness than someone that's making like $70,000, right? I think 100. If you're making $100,000, like that's the mark or something like that, where the happiness levels kind of don't go much higher. Yeah,
I think it depends on the city, but yeah, it's like in between like 100. I think it's 100 to 200 grand, something like that.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of my belief if we can figure out how to, and that's why I actually like the UN came up with these 17 sustainable goals.
Oh wow, I've never heard of this.
Yeah, you should look it up. The 17 sustainable goals on how to basically take care of all the problems in the world, right? So like by 2030, they want to eradicate poverty. They want to eradicate hunger, like all the main issues that are going on with the environment, like everything that's going on. There's like action steps that people can get involved with. If you look up the UN 17 Sustainable Goals, you can learn about how you can get involved on how to make these things a reality.
Yeah.
And poverty is obviously, I don't know which one is like in the top 4. I think that is like a global issue. And if you can eradicate poverty or like create a system, especially within the United States, where we're probably one of the richest. We're one of the richest countries in the world. Like I feel like I grew up poor, but I didn't really grow up poor compared to like third world countries. I always had something to eat.
But a lot of times in those countries, they're happier anyways. Yeah, because they get to see their work. They get to see. I mean, not that I want to like shit in a hole in the ground, but at the end of the day, it's like sometimes our culture gets set up where, say, you're making $30,000 and living in New York, and you're always behind, and you need an escape, and you're in a culture. You're surrounded by a drug culture. Like I've talked about this on the show before, but one show that really impacted me is The Wire. Like I don't know if you saw The Wire. Have you seen
I know of it. My brother was obsessed with it. I never delved into it. It's out of Baltimore, right?
Yeah, out of Baltimore, and you essentially see this whole cycle of toxicity in this culture, right? Where from the drug dealers to the kids to the way the police system's structured, where they can't really do anything, and it perpetuates this cycle of just no one can get out of it. Everybody's in it, no matter how bad, and you get to see people really trying and failing and trying and failing, and the school system sucks, and then they can't get a job, and then they were running drugs. They had 3 brothers, and their parents are junkies, and they get arrested at 16, and they can't get a job. So what else are they going to do? It's like this crazy cycle. And we have the power to fix that. Like there's enough abundance in our world to fix that. I don't know what the answer is. Yeah. But it's not ignoring it. Yeah. It's not pretending like it doesn't exist, and it's not pretending like it's their fault either. Because they're a product of their experience, and we're a product of our experience. It just is what it is.
Yeah. It's somehow trying to figure out to set up systems, like with anything, like how do businesses operate and make a ton of money? They have systems put in place that allow for that to happen. So when the system is broke, then it's just going to continue to be that the swirling mechanism into the pit holes of continued poverty. So
exactly, man. But that's something. I think you're right on there, man. When you feel like you're constantly behind and just in. What else are you gonna do? And then they get constantly criticized and put back behind. Like it should come to no surprise that we have a poverty and an addiction problem are definitely directly correlated.
Yeah, 100%.
It's wild, man. We live in a crazy world.
So what else is going on with the Pleasure Monkey podcast?
Well, dude, I mean, really, the mission of this thing, it's funny, is to show people how to take ownership of their experience in life. That's something and that's why I wanted you on the show, dude. Is it because I feel like you did a kick-ass job of doing that right now. You're in the middle of it, and something I feel like people don't share is, we can get a Lewis Howes on here who's like successful. We can get, Aubrey Marcus has been on the show. The dude's killing it. But sometimes it's the people that are right in the fucking middle of it. I want to hear, like, where are you at right now? What are you struggling with? Like, where are you trying to go? So, I mean, let's we're about to wrap this thing up, but let's talk about, like, what are your goals now coming from, we've heard a little bit about your past and kind of where you're going. What are your goals now, and what are you doing to make those happen?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me, which is interesting, like I never had goals, but now I do have goals, and like life is more enthralling. It's more like I kind of know the direction that I want to head in, and like you said before, like nothing is a straight line. Like it's always moving. But taking the time to actually create a vision for what you want to create or what you want to build in this world is super powerful. And I have committed to myself to continue to go to personal development seminars, and I'm definitely not where I want to be, but being on the journey of trying to get to where I'm trying to go, but enjoying the process of getting there is like the key, right? It's like I don't have as much money as I want, but I've had cool experiences where I made a ton of money, and then like I self-sabotaged and lost it, and I had a lot of like learning lessons, and now I'm kind of on the rebuilding phase, and really helping to shift the identity and the story that I used to have about myself to that's a part of my life, and that's who I was, but not letting that claim like who I am today and where I'm heading, right? Is super powerful for me. And like every single day, just getting up with the intention of, what can I create in this world? How can I be of service? What is my purpose? And trying to uncover that every single day and just get better. And like, what I've noticed is like grappling all these new types of skills and like playing around with them and seeing what do I like, what do I don't like. Because I didn't know people are like, what do you want? I know there's a lot of people that are probably listening to this like, I have no clue what I want. Right?
Yeah.
And like right now, I started my own business. I never thought I'd start my own official business. And I'm working with 6 different clients right now, and I do some marketing and consulting and strategy and stuff like that. And I'm not super passionate about Facebook advertising or like media buying. It's not my I don't think I was born to do that, but it's a part of my journey. It's giving me a skill that allows me to connect with like really cool people and help them to kind of get the results that they're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And it's teaching me a lot about money, and it's teaching me a lot about how to be a man and how to grow up and how to take ownership of my own life, right? And the end goal for me, like and who knows if I'll ever be able to actually create this vision that I have, but it's big enough and compelling enough for me to continue on the journey, getting up every day. Currently, right now, running some media buying and like doing sales calls and getting better at these and chipping away each day to just perfect different skills that I used to just be so terrified of or never thought I was good enough or smart enough or capable of really achieving, and I just default to like doing drugs or drinking alcohol.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, when there was fear of like not doing it, like I have to go do it. Like I have to jump into that thing.
Leaning into it, man.
And I surprised myself, and I'm like back in the day, I wouldn't be able to say I'm proud of myself, but I am proud of myself today. So it's my goals are, number one, my contribution is my number one value, and I believe through contribution comes growth, and that's kind of what my spiritual life revolves around. If I can contribute and continue to grow, I feel more fulfilled and I feel more successful, right?
Yeah.
And with that will come money and experiences and really good people. And I've been able to attract really good people into my life. And my goals moving forward is just continue. I focus so much on personal development and being able to just learn how to become something more, become the best version of myself, and I feel like you can always get to a different level. And just setting financial goals, setting business goals, setting physical goals to and continue to strive towards those things. It's been fulfilling and fun for me just by going in that direction. So my mission, I'm sure like everyone's to make $1 million, right? But it's not about the $1 million. Like I want to. Like every day I write out, I easily and effortlessly am attracting $100,000 into my bank account per month, right? And who knows if I'll ever be able to achieve that goal, but to see if I could become the person that's even worthy of attracting that amount of money into my life is fun. It's just like and I know with that. What's up, puppy? I know a dog just entered into the.
We got a new guest in the show.
This guy is awesome. But yeah, just like I know by being able to see money. I think money is a really interesting thing. I think business dictates culture. And I've become obsessed with learning more about how business works and how I can operate in that world. And I believe storytelling is what is dictating culture, right? And like dictating what's going on around us. And if I can help to influence that story through the business that I'm creating and help, and at the end of the day, inspire people through my story and give hope to someone that might be in the midst of their struggle with addiction or whatever they're currently suffering from. It drives me to get up every day and just do a podcast or do whatever it is.
Dude, and that's the thing is like one thing that you said that I really resonate with, and I think this is something we shared just in our conversation is like, I want 100,000 downloads a month. Like that's the next step. And I think I'm gonna do that in 2018. That's gonna happen. Right. And I'm creating a space in my life for that to happen. But I'm also just fucking stoked to be where I am.
Yeah.
Like I'm stoked to be here every day, and I wake up and I write my morning pages, and I journal, and I see where I'm at, and I try to get ideas and try to grow. But I also spend that same amount of effort just being fully where I am and finding gratitude in that. I think that's 100% huge too. Like the stories, everything that's transpired to get me right here, I'm grateful for. I'm grateful to be right here, and I'm excited to see what the future holds, man. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for you. Dude, I'm stoked to connect with you. Thank you so much for jumping on the show. Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can check out bryanedmund.com. That's Bryan with a Y, Edmund with a U. I'm basically Bryan Edmund on Instagram. I hang on Instagram a lot and Facebook, etc. But
you might see me on the stories if you follow fast enough.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, brother. Thank you so much. Good luck with everything, man. Well, guys, that's our show today. Remember, if you loved it, head on over to iTunes and give it a 5-star review before you do anything else. Before you go on to that next podcast, before you do whatever you're going to do next, go to iTunes, give it a 5-star review, say something nice, and then enjoy the dopamine rush as that stuff pumps in through your brain. You'll thank me later. And if you want to be a part of any more cool conversations like this one with the cool kids, basically AC Slater and Zach Morris and Kelly Kapowski, modern day, are all gathered in the Pleasure Monkey Life Facebook group. Go to facebook.com, search Pleasure Monkey Life, and request access. It is free for now, but that won't last for long. So, guys, get in there. We do live Facebook calls every Wednesday called Wandering Wednesdays. We just jump on, ask questions, share thoughts. I'll pull members from the group onto the Facebook Live as well, and we'll just talk. There's so much to be learned from other people and other people's experience to give context on what you're doing and why you're doing it in life. And I have to say the Pleasure Monkey Life Facebook group is one of the favorite things that I do that's associated with the show. So get in there, check it out. I would love to hang out with you. And I hope you guys have a fucking beautiful, beautiful day. Peace.